Hello again. The three of us are saying hi from Lausanne. In this session, we're going to look at the drafting violation during the bike segment. So this is something that is quite sensitive. Okay. But in terms of cycling conduct, the first cycling conduct we're going to look at is what we call the lapping. So basically, an athlete that has been lapped by another athlete in the elite or U23 or junior categories must be taken out of the race. It must go out, not to have any impact on the race. And this is the main reason for that is also safety issues. Because we're doing lap, basically we don't want the people crossing the transition with the bike while maybe a transition is active because there's already staff that have finished.
We have events, mainly continental cups, actually only continental cups, who are the technical delegate is asking for a rule exception from the specific rule. This request has to come all the time to the RU Technical Committee, and the RU Technical Committee is giving this exception if there are specific conditions in place. And the conditions are that the athletes they don't go through the transition on every lap on the bike, and the bike lap, the course, there are not a lot of laps. So we are looking for 2-3 laps, so we have minimum number of lapped athletes. So it can happen, but only after an exception of the ITU Technical Committee.
Then the following table here is just summarizing basically in which kind of event we have draft, or draft legal or draft illegal races. So I just let you read this. This is for your information. But just know that since recently, basically the draft legal races are also taking place for the age group events sometimes.
Now, in case that you're wondering why Aquathlon doesn't have anything on their line, obviously there is no bike on Aquathlon, and this is the reason.
But it's always fun to put in an athlete briefing just to see if people are paying attention.
Exactly.
Okay, so for draft illegal races, it's forbidden to draft off an athlete of a different gender, and it's forbidden to draft off an athlete who's on a different lap. And it's forbidden in draft illegal or legal races to draft off a motorbike or a vehicle. This is also me, so I'm going to continue talking for a moment. So as I said, drafting off an athlete or a motor vehicle is forbidden, and you must reject attempts to either be drafting or to be drafted. So the athlete who gets to the position first is the one who kind of controls whether the drafting is taking place or not. And you have to make sure that you're in your position without making contact with anybody or getting in anybody else's way. If an athlete approaches from any position to take advantage of the draft, they're responsible for avoiding that draft if that draft is taking place. So there are certain amounts of distances that you need to be away from according to the distance of the race. So middle and long distance draft zone, it's 12 meters long, and it's measured from the leading edge of the front wheel, which is something that we all have to get used to. And you have 25 seconds to pass through that zone to get to not be drafting in that way. In standard and shorter distances events, it's a 10-meter draft zone, again with the leading edge of the front wheel, and it's a maximum of 20 seconds to be allowed to pass through the zone of another athlete.
So this means that in middle long distance events, between our bike and the next bike, we should fit more or less another 5 bicycles.
Yeah.
If you consider it 2 meter long.
Yeah.
And then the same thing for the standard, we have to fit 4 bicycles. So again, it's 10 meters.
Okay, but this woman shouldn't be out on the bike course anyway because she's not wearing a helmet. So really that's the transition area officials' purview to look after that. So we talked a little bit about vehicle drafting. These guys are obviously taking advantage of this bus because they should be 35 meters away from the vehicle. And the motorbike draft, because it's a smaller vehicle, it's a 12-meter long drafting.
And now if we're looking at overtaking, basically we just need to be aware that an athlete is considered as passed when the front wheel of the athlete is passing in front of him, okay? So that's the first thing. Then once you're overtaken, in case you want to reattempt to pass in front of the person that just passed you, you must make sure that you go out, or that the athletes go out of the draft zone before doing the attempt, okay? So he cannot stay behind and then start another attempt. He has to go out of the 12 meter or 10 meters before starting another attempt. If he doesn't do that and he makes an attempt before going out of the zone, basically he will be given a blue card, which is the same as a drafting violation, and we will have to stop at the next penalty box to service penalties. There's also one thing that we need to look at when we're on the bike course. Here is the people, or are the people that are blocking the other athletes, that are preventing them to move forward in the proper way. First of all, the technical delegate will always assign one side of the road that the athlete should use, okay? If an athlete doesn't respect that side and stay on the wrong side and prevents the athlete to move forward, he will be penalized with a stop and go for blocking. So in that case, you don't show a blue card, but you show a yellow card. So just to summarize, when you're on the motorbike, when you want to give a blue card for drafting or a yellow card for blocking, you first sound the whistle to attract the attention. You show the card, you call the athlete's number, and you advise him to go to the next penalty box. Okay. If the athletes receive more than one drafting violation, in standard event, if he receives a second one, he will be disqualified. In long distance or middle distance event, it will be at the third card that he will be disqualified. So here, just to let you think about what are the drafting, the time that the people stay in the penalty box. Basically, you know that for long and middle distance events, the penalty for drafting is 5 minutes. For standard distance, the penalty for drafting is 2 minutes. And for sprint distance or shorter, it will be 1 minute. Something important as well, when you in the process of giving the blue card or the yellow card, is to make sure that we record the proper information that we give to the penalty box. So we have now developed kind of a voucher that we ask people to use in such events. And we must make sure that they report at least, of course, the number of the athlete, but at least also 2 other specification, if you want, of the athletes that can help us to recognize and to make sure this is the proper athletes. So just make sure that you get this material from your CRO, from a chief race official, and that will make your job easier, and also the job of the people at the penalty box easier.
So these vouchers that have been translated so far to 6 languages. How many languages do you speak?
I speak 1, but I took Latin and French in high school, so you can test me on those 2.
I'm sure I've covered everything. So all these vouchers that are available in the technical officials page, where you can download the file and you can make printout for the events. One element which is quite important is to determine how many officials we need on the course, depending obviously from the type of event that we have, if it's a draft legal, elite event, or age group races. In general, we try to have as less motorbikes as possible, but at the same time to have enough for monitoring the bike contact. So for elite draft events, we don't have more than 3 motorbikes, never, with the technical officials. And mainly they are responsible to monitor the lap athletes. Age group illegal, the number of motorbike can vary from 8 until up to 20 or even more, depending on how long is the course and if there is a possibility of multi-laps. And in draft legal, again, we are trying to keep a number not more than 6 to 8 motorbikes, and mainly we are monitoring the drafting between genders, if there is this possibility to happen.
It's always good to have a motorcycle in the wings too, that if one of your motorcycles has a mechanical or runs out of gas, it's good to have a bike on the
Spare one.
a spare
Exactly.
one. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, we don't need to mention that the technical officials, there should be passengers on motorbikes. They should not drive the motorbikes in order for them to be able to officiate properly and do the work in the proper way. And the driver needs to have the competence of moving within group and understand the specificalities of this sport.
So not me.
I will trust you now. Now, there are some easy ways to remember distances for drafting. One way is what our colleagues from Triathlon Australia are using. So basically, with the marking that we have on the ground, you can easily determine the distance, the 12-meter distance. And as you can see, there are international standards on the marking on the asphalt, which you can easily take this kind of decisions. And then this is more or less the photo that we can get. So as a recap, with around the bike contact, two big elements. First of all, lapping rule, and Stefan covered this extensively. Second thing is the drafting, overtaking, and blocking, which are really thin, if I can say, meaning around this. And then according to this, the technical official should be in a position to monitor specific behaviors of the athletes. So thank you very much for watching this webinar, and we'll see you on the next one.